point. So now the question that comes up immediately is, if you're a parent or you're an adolescent and you're the victim of this, how do you cope? What do you do? What's your plan?
Well, I think, look, one thing I think that is very important is how you set examples in the home, okay? And you really have to make it that you can openly communicate with your child and your child communicate with you. But also you want your child to have a safe adult sometimes outside of the home, be it a teacher or a scout leader, someone else that the child can trust. Because sometimes you're not that comfortable telling your parents. I mean, I think that's a reality. So that's one thing that a parent could do in terms of setting a stage of being honest, open, having morals. Morals and ethics are like a new thing in society. We used to have it, and then it went away, and I'm hoping it's coming back. And I say that jokingly, but I mean it very much. Because especially right now, today, we have so many people that are angry about so many things. And I think it's coming out in our kids. And we have a lack of boundaries in a new world. And there are too many avenues for pain and for hurt and destructive behavior. And I think we as parents really need to teach our kids basic morals, individual responsibility. I think that's especially crucial in something like this.
You know, that is so true. It really is. And, you know, piggybacking sort of on your question, are kids meaner now? I'm worried about this generation. I'm worried about their values. I'm worried about their attitudes. I'm worried about the way they behave and treat authority. There's been an erosion of respect for authority. They just don't seem to get it in terms of what's appropriate, what's helpful, and what's harmful. Or they don't care. You know, there's this lack of conscience development. Are they meaner now? Not all kids, of course. But yeah, I think a lot of kids are meaner, and I'm worried about them, you know, as they emerge into adulthood and what the world's going to be like.
So if you're a parent and you're trying to do a great job raising your child, what can you do in this environment to try to, in other words, if the child sees other children who are meaner, what can you do as a parent to try to encourage your child not to follow suit or to understand it?
Well, I think there's three things that you can definitely do. First is you can have filtering software on your computers, and that's something we help families out a lot with all the time. It's basically software that goes on the computers that filters out bad sites, and you can categorize it like based on the children's age, what categories they want to be, what they can see, violence or nudity or what they should be restricted from. The other thing that you can put on there is monitoring software, where it basically tracks every keystroke that you have on the computer. It tells you what sites they've been to, what their IMs were, what their emails are. Some people would argue that it's an invasion of privacy, but others would argue that, you know what, it's better to be safe than sorry in this day and age because of how fast things move and how damaging things can be. And third, I think that being an active parent is really important. That's basically setting the environment up in the household so it's conducive and a safe computing haven. Having a central charging station, having rules, maybe a list, like a contract between you and your kids that they have to sign, that these are the rules of the internet. You have to put electronic devices off at a certain time. If this happens, you have to do this. You know, every family's different, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution for every family because different parenting styles, different kids.
But it really has to start early too, Adam. Wouldn't you say? Because you can't go and tell a 12-year-old, okay, we're making the rules now.
No, that would be more reactive than proactive. You want to get it once they start using the computer. It has to be from the ground up. And if your kids are already beyond that like 6-7-year-old mark when they start using the computer, you should consider monitoring software because it might be too late at that point.
Well, let's go back to the computer issue first of all. If you've got a young teenager or a younger child, should they have their own computer in their own room? Should it be more in a central room? I know we always kept the computer in one room. We kept only desktop models, you know, when they were younger, and so you had to go into this room to use the computer. So right away we would know what was going on because you could walk in and out of the room just, you know, intermittently and sort of do a sampling thing, if you will. But I mean, should everybody do that? Should they I mean, what age do you do what?
It's getting tougher, you know, because everything's becoming more mobile.
Absolutely.
You know, it's between the iTouch, the iPhone, you know, these are like little computers in your hands. You can go on the internet wherever you want. You know, so the rule, you know, the rule should be a household rule regardless of what kind of computer it is, because the fact of the matter is you're going to have mobile devices. They're going to be in the house, and yes, in an ideal situation, a desktop in a central location in the house would be perfect. You know, have multiple ones in a living room area, and don't have them in the kids' rooms, and don't, you know, and so forth. But the kids are going to have laptops. The kids are going to have the iPods and the iTouches and the iPhones and the BlackBerries. So you have to have rules that are set up that central charging station is something I advocate.
But on the other hand, the rest of the day, the kids are sort of on their own when they're not charging a computer. So I think for a parent, it's a very difficult situation. So I think it takes it back to, you know, we have a whole bunch of experts here, is what's a parent to do? And I think that's a real issue. And what kind of things can they do to try to help with this, help stop it, help their child cope with it, help their child deal with it if it does happen? What?
Well, I mean, I think some of those, Adam's suggestions about, you know, monitoring with software, monitoring with technique and strategies with the use of the hardware are very, very good suggestions. But the bottom line is, it's not foolproof, and it's never going to be foolproof. And yeah, that's one thing you have to accept. You know, nothing's going to be foolproof. It comes back to me, it comes back to the whole issue with the family relationship, values, what's appropriate, the communication with the parents being very specific and very, very dynamic about how we treat others and what's appropriate and not appropriate. The parents have to be tech savvy. They have to be tech savvy so they know. And as Adam mentioned, they have to you know, do a lot of monitoring to make sure their kids are doing things appropriately. And here's another one. Remember I said it's embedded in our culture, the technology? Well, it's in my culture too as an adult. Modeling. What are you modeling for your kids in terms of how you use the technology? I mean, I remember one of my children coming up to me once, and I'm working on a document. He asks me a question, and I don't even turn my head. I answer the question, what kind of message am I sending, and what am I modeling for him? You know, we have to be careful of the subtle and the overt modeling that we're doing with our kids when we use the technology. That will help them know what's appropriate and not appropriate.
It's true to, you know, to branch off of that. If you're walking around the house all day and you yourself as a parent are walking around with your head in your BlackBerry at dinner or when your kids are trying to have a conversation or at their kids' Little League game or whatnot, and your head is constantly down in your BlackBerry, what is that teaching them? What are they going to do?
Well, all this
They're
technology
gonna do the same thing,
I thought
right?
was bringing people closer together, but I don't know. I see them walking next to each other, going like this.
It's bringing
They're
a
not
lot
talking
of
to each
it's
other.
bringing a lot of people closer together, not necessarily the ones you're with in the moment.
Okay, well, here's an interesting question. Now, is there anything you can do to stop from being a victim? Or is a victim totally, there's nothing you can do to stop it? Are there ways you can prevent people from doing this?
Well,
What makes someone become a victim?
What makes someone?
Why, is there any personality type that's more likely? Or?
Well, yes, in a sense. Look, teenagers and kids, you want to belong. You want to be like everybody else. So anybody who's anything that might be different, unfortunately, winds up a target. Or anyone who perceives themselves that way. It's like you have two kids that are heavy. One who really feels bad about being heavy and the other one doesn't care. The one who really feels bad about it is going to get teased more, unfortunately. And there are different things. Kids who are in special needs kids, be it physical or mental disorders, they get bullied at higher rates. Kids who have whole gender issues, the gay, lesbian, bisexual kids, they are teased. One study found like over 90% of the kids have experienced teasing. Anyone who's different. The only thing that I find fascinating is that, you know, the nerds used to be teased, and they may be now, except they've got a better way of getting back, some of them, because they're so tech savvy. But the reality is kids can be mean, they're testing things out, they don't know how people are responding, and so we have many kids that are more vulnerable just by their natural differences. And everybody wants to wear an Abercrombie shirt.
It's like a perfect storm also. You have, you know, these kids that are high risk, they're vulnerable for some reason, they're different in some way. Then you have adolescents who are struggling with their own identities, And in that struggle, there's an intolerance for difference. And then you add to the perfect storm the technology, the ability to access. The internet and cell phones are open for business 24 hours a day, and they could just do it. So to me, it's the perfect storm to really prey on certain kids.
And absolutely, and with cameras, the video stuff that you can take, I mean, we all know about that sad case at Rutgers of Tyler Clementi. I mean, this poor kid killed himself.
Yeah, it's tough for parents in this day and age. It really is. So they really just have to be involved. And there's really no way around it, because as much monitoring as you're going to do, as much filtering as you're going to do, there's going to be stuff that slips through the cracks. There's going to be you can't monitor everything. If your kids really want to see something, they're going to go to their friend's house, or they're going to go to school, or they're going to go on their cell phone. It's not monitored. They're going to go other places and get access to that information. And filter-wise, you know, if they get on a computer that's not filtered, you know, if they can get access to it. So it's really important that parents just have, like we've been talking about, that two-way communication. What's right, what's not right, how to deal with different problems when they occur, and what's the best way of approaching them. And I really think parents, you know, if a certain website has a posting on that's creating cyberbullying, you go to the source, go to the site, contact them. I think that is, I've advocated that a couple of times to parents, which did work, where they went to the site and they deleted whatever posting, and that way it's anonymous, and it's the kid itself doesn't have to feel like they just tattletaled on someone else. And then also you can go to the school authorities. I think that would be very helpful too, because they have access to all these other children that may be involved.
Well, I think you've all brought up some very interesting issues, and I have to thank you for joining this. It sounds like we can go on for hours, but certainly a very challenging problem for parents and children and adolescents today. So if you have any more questions about this, please contact us at Hometown Television. You can reach us via the internet or at our offices in Summit, and I thank you for joining us.